Welcome to Figuring It Out, the show where Vanessa and I you get to watch us. It's all live and very underproduced, and we don't really know what we're doing. But you get to watch us have conversations about marriage, about parenting, about life in general. And today we are going to have a conversation about, Vanessa recently shifted her focus with what she's been doing with her time. And over the past year, she's kind of experimented with some stuff. And honestly, we've had some disagreements and heavy conversations about some of that. And so that's changed. So we're going to have some thoughts on the two ingredients for making substantial changes, because that's ultimately what led to this change for her. And really, this is going to end up being about how transformation works. So that's what we're doing today. Thanks for, watching. Even if nobody watches, this is still, I think I said this last time, we enjoy this. So thanks for being a part of it.
And I think we wore the same clothes that we have on right now last time.
Okay. Well, let's start with just a couple things of what we're either figuring out or not figuring out. Did you have one?
About the TV?
Okay, go ahead.
So I don't know if your kids do this, but our children got into the habit of watching YouTube. I don't like YouTube. I don't like that you never know like what's going to pop up. And they were just watching like ridiculous, annoying things. And so I think just one morning we got kind of tired of it and we took YouTube off the TV, so we took it off the iPad. And it's been great.
Here's the thing. They don't know how to actually use YouTube.
No.
Like, it can be a great tool, but they just watch whatever stuff happens to be well advertised or well tagged so it shows up on the right channel. It's garbage.
So take YouTube off your TV, see what happens.
All right, so then for me, also dealing with kids, I've kind of come to the conclusion, this is something that I wish I had figured out, and sometimes I think I do have it figured out, but feeding our children is just out of my league. And especially because I like to cook and I like food, and there's been things that I make and it's like, this is actually really good, and they hate it. Or
go ahead.
What?
I was going to say, I bet they would say that I'm the better cook because I can make mac and cheese and frozen pizza.
And I've even made like good homemade macaroni and cheese, and they don't like it.
Landon does well. Torin doesn't do as well.
He does now.
Yes, he didn't used to.
I think Quinn literally probably thinks that dinner and mac and cheese are synonyms.
He loves mac and cheese.
Because it's just like, mac and cheese. And I'm disappointed in myself. That's what I wish, and I think people like look at our family and go, they've probably figured that one out. And
no, we've never figured that out.
Just admitting that I haven't. It's a mess. So we've mentioned this kind of thing before when we're talking about change. And that's something that I love talking about, like the actual practical processes of change. And there's 2 big steps and why we resist change and all of that. And I think we did that like episode 1 or 2, even. And we have lots of content out there about some of this stuff. But this question is one that I get really angry about sometimes too. Why our culture's approach to change sucks. And part of this is there's a whole market for, like our culture loves the idea of changing things. And so we've built a whole market on making money off of people's desire to change. And I have huge problems with that. But one thing we wanted to emphasize today is, there's the theoretical stuff, but then there's all of this, the more practical side. And there's two more formal ingredients that we've talked about that I think are really necessary for making like substantial transformation. in your life, like things that are going to actually alter your existence, change the way the whole thing works. And those two things would be knowledge and accountability. So knowledge being you have to know what you're going to do, why you're going to do it, where you're going to go with your life, and how you're going to get there. So you have to know like the stuff. You can guess, but just using like healthy eating as an example, it would be instrumentally beneficial if you knew what you were doing too. And this is where like science and research and stuff like that's really awesome. But then the other thing is accountability. And we've talked in the stages of change, one of the things that's really important is social cohesion. And that deals with accountability. That if we're left to our own devices, we're probably going to check out and resort back to what's comfortable or what we know or what's familiar. And so having something or someone or a group be able to be a part of that process, we are more likely to take that internal thing that we really want to do, and it gives us an external form to hold us accountable to actually doing it. You think about like recovery movement, Alcoholics Anonymous, things like that. The reason those are successful for the most part are because of the connection and the accountability that coincides with actually going through that process. So those two things are important. And that's part of like what you try to emphasize by doing what you do. I mean, I try to emphasize that as well.
Yeah, I think from a health standpoint though, there's like so much information. You could Google like healthy recipes. You're not going to always get the healthiest recipes that pop up. And so sifting through that information and trying to get that knowledge for yourself is actually really difficult. But that's something that I enjoy doing. I enjoy like reading what's in the food and what is it actually going to do to my body and how's it going to help me or how's it going to make me feel bad, or I enjoy doing that stuff. And as far as accountability goes, example, like when we worked out together, I would say that I was the one that would be like, okay, what time are we waking up in the morning? And you'd be like, let's not.
I wouldn't have even done it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But having that extra person to say like, hey, I'm doing this tomorrow, made you say, okay, fine, like I'll do it too.
Well, let's talk about the knowledge thing, because Google can be a really great tool.
Sure.
And for some things like Wikipedia is actually helpful. But I see this with like church and theology and Bible stuff too, is you can't Google everything. So just by Googling something doesn't mean you have access to all the information. And just by Googling something too, we don't actually internalize that information. So having somebody who's actually sat with a lot of the research, who's sat with the concepts, who's experienced those things, that's more important than Google. So, I mean, you could even take this with like using Google to help you translate something. The translation's probably not completely accurate because that technology has its limits. Or with food, you can Google or go to Food Network and look up how to cook something specific. You're better off learning from grandma or actually going through the process of like figuring out how to cook that, or having worked in a space where you had to make that with some of the best chefs in the world. Probably going to be better than Google. So Google has a place,
Sure,
just like YouTube has a place. But this is also our culture's age is one. Here's two things about this that bother me. One is that we think just by reading something online, we are now experts.
yes.
And the amount of people who take something and they share it on Facebook and now they are so absolutely certain that they figured this out. And if everybody else could just know what they now know, the world's problems would be fixed. The other thing is that a lot of the stuff that's on Google is because somebody's trying to make money. So they created a food blog or they do some sort of exercise thing because they're trying to sell something. So in that process, are they concerned about getting the best information out there or the information that's going to attract the most readers or viewers and therefore boost their brand, allow them to make more income? So you have to be careful with that stuff. One of the things that I've noticed with what you do is you've had people go through coaching who know their stuff, who have like dietary experience or exercise experience, but they don't have the time to look through and find out what the best information or the best practices are. And there's something also about with information is if it's on Google, it's generic.
Right.
Where somebody who knows the stuff and then can adapt it specifically to you, like cooking, for example, a recipe, is that not a good example?
I don't cook.
Oh.
That's fine.
But a recipe is generic. Well, based on the equipment you have and some of the extra ingredients you have and the style that you cook in and the atmosphere you're cooking in, you have to actually tweak those things. And if you don't know how to do that, then you're not going to actually be able to take that information and make it practical. And I've just noticed that's something that you've been able to do with folks. That's how that knowledge needs to work.
Mm-hmm. I'm distracted because I heard one of our children upstairs. That's just real life right now.
Does somebody want to go check on them?
They might even join us.
Here's what's going to happen. They're going to come down here and they're going to be bawling.
I'm sorry.
Just tears flying. They're worried about something.
Here they go.
And they're going to see this stuff and they're going to get really excited. And they're going to think like we're like YouTubers or something.
They do think we're YouTubers, actually.
I think one of them's on the stairs right now.
I know. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. You're like, oh. You're seeing this live, right? Yeah, I don't know. I'm actually sweating right now because I don't know. The dog's barking outside and the child's coming downstairs. Just like, I'm feeling anxious. Okay.
All right, we're going to move on.
We are?
I think so.
Okay.
So that was knowledge. What about the idea of accountability? You'll notice too, like, I don't like gender stereotyping, but men don't tend to utilize this.
I mean, maybe they should.
Is that a gender
I mean, that's true.
thing?
Like, I think of, like, I'm going to call some of my friends out, like Steph and Kendra and Haley and Heidi. Like, they all run together. That's like their lone little pod of people. Like, every Saturday morning, they know that they're going to have somebody to run with, or someone's going to text them and be like, hey, what time are we running?
Yeah.
And it's almost like the fear of missing out thing. Like, oh, I don't really want to run, but I don't want to miss out on the run. Mm-hmm.
And that's social cohesion. We, for some reason, humans are predisposed that we want to be able to be liked and to be acknowledged and affirmed by our peers. But they all do it consistently.
Right.
Whereas, like me and some of my friends, we exercise, we work out. We're never doing that together, and we don't talk about it. But, so what's the sell me on why I should? Sell me on why accountability is good.
I think there's just something about accomplishing something and then having that to share with other people. And on the days where you don't feel like doing whatever the thing is, I think it's important to have that group behind you saying like, no, you can do it, or you are capable of doing it. And then just kind of instilling those thoughts in your mind and be like, oh yeah, like I can do it. And if I don't do it, they're going to call me out.
Yeah. And you said the fear of missing out, but that's also the fear of being ostracized or the fear of failing. And that's a powerful thing for us. So I agree with you there, but specifically in the sense of, I've also noticed, and this isn't as much with health, but with things like addiction or lifestyle changes, or creating work environments where you push yourself to do something and you want to make changes there. Accountability is really necessary because of what it does to you in helping you to overcome like your resistance to the change. So it's not only because that will entice me to do these things. If I'm left to my own accord, I'm going to stop the good behaviors as soon as they're difficult. As soon as it's easier to choose the old thing, I will stop. and to have somebody that can kind of be an external voice when your own voice is not going to do the thing you want it to do. You genuinely want to pursue this good change. But as soon as you get into a position where the old thing is easier, you're going to stop. So that's something that I notice in, people who work on their own or they're their own boss. You've probably experienced this to some degree as well, that it's hard to get yourself to continue to do the things. We're not our best motivator. So that's probably something that goes along with that as well. Yeah. So these aren't very common approaches for people. And recently you decided that there was a world in which you were in that you did not want to do anymore.
Yes.
So what's wrong?
Should I share that? Or
Yeah.
Okay, so last year I decided to start this health and wellness business, and I was posting about it on social media, and I was approached by somebody, and she was like, hey, you are actually really good at this. I would love for you to work with me. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe. I was like, what is it all about? And she gave me all the information, and lo and behold, it was Beachbody coaching. And I was like kind of back and forth about it. You were like, absolutely not. Like, I don't want you to do it. And I was like, no, I think it could be a good thing. Like, it could be like in addition to my health and wellness business. And so I did it. And I do want to say, like, I do like the workouts. I love the workouts. I think they're great.
I use them as well.
He uses them as well. I do like some of the supplements. But I got pretty immersed in that world. And I did set pretty firm boundaries with myself, because if you know Beachbody and things like Beachbody, you know how that business kind of works. And so I had told myself, like, I'm not going to do all, like, I made a list. I'm not going to do this, this, and this. I don't want to become that person. I don't want to become like predatory on people. I don't want people to feel like I am selling their progress for my benefit. And I kind of started to feel like I was selling my own body, to make money. And so I had to step back, and I had to really think about, like, what are my intentions with helping people be the best versions of themselves? And it just did not align with Beachbody coaching anymore. And I was getting to the point where I was like ranking up and getting higher and higher and being pretty successful with it. Decently successful.
Probably more than you set out to do.
Right. We didn't lose money from me doing it. But I was starting to get to the point where I was going to have to do some of those things that crossed my boundaries, and I said, I'm out. I can't do this anymore. But that really got me thinking, like, how can I, reach the masses of people without having that financial strain on people? Like, I don't want them to think they have to invest in something like Beachbody or like really just the diet culture that's so big right now. Like, how can I get people to understand they don't have to do those things in order to reach their goals and to be successful and to feel good about themselves?
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I don't know that Beachbody, I don't want to be too critical. I don't know that their first concern is health.
No, and that's the thing. Like, I wanted my first concern to be health, but as I'm seeing, like, the people who are, making all this money and ranked up really high, like, I really question, do you really care about these people? Or are you just trying to figure out, like, how can I enroll somebody else to,
But what's the bigger problem with Beachbody?
I think it is it's a diet culture. Like,
but what's wrong with that? What's the problem?
It's not, in the long run, you probably will not see success with that.
Why?
Because it's not the long game. It's like a very short, there's a huge turnover rate with that stuff.
Yeah.
Which I found out pretty quickly. Like, okay, this is great for a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, and then it's like, this is not sustainable. So I really want to help people figure out, like, how can I really, shut the door open. How can I really, like, teach people how to have these habits that are actually going to stick, and teach them how to eat with an intuitive mind and exercise with an intuitive mind. So this is like a long-term lifestyle, not just like a fun thing to do for, a short period of time.
Yeah. There's a metaphor that I use of, like, if you have a yard and you want to start a garden and your garden is all clay soil, you can go and buy a bunch of topsoil and you can.
I think I need to go let her in.
Well, I'm going to tell you a story about a garden.
Right back. Our neighbors are going to what?
Oh, and I just saw Paul. Paul said, "What? People are trying to sell me something and might not have my best interests at heart." Yes, we're not dropping any new knowledge here. So if you have a garden and it's all clay, you can go buy a bunch of topsoil, put it there, get transplants, put them in, and you technically have a garden at that point. If you want the garden, and I think that's what Vanessa is saying in terms of really quick fixes, fads, products that allow you to skip any of the process, that's kind of like the topsoil. Our dog has joined us now too. This is just a night full of everybody. You're getting the whole thing. If you want to actually make that a garden that's going to last long term, and I think this is what you're talking about with health, wellness, exercise, diet, nutrition, is you actually have to, go through years of retraining that soil so that it exists differently now. And then you don't have to keep buying the topsoil and you don't have to keep buying the transplants. You can go through this whole process of having a healthy garden. And I think a lot of MLMs, if I'm allowed to call them those,
Sure.
A lot of MLMs in the sort of health world are designed, one, to kind of prey on the desire to change and use that in order to make money. I have yet to be exposed to a health-based MLM that genuinely has like the best interests of folks in mind. And I mean, that's kind of the definition of an MLM, I suppose.
Do you think people are going to start attacking us?
I don't know.
Right now.
I mean, I said health MLMs.
Okay.
And I'll defend that one. But maybe there is something. What I'm saying, though, is it doesn't actually exist to alter how you are. It is a quick fix. It's a product that's supposed to give you that short-term satisfaction. It's like using cheat codes in a video game. But that doesn't actually build the ability to play well. And that's kind of what I see with a lot of these. It's like, take this pill and look, it's going to do this for you. Well, then, yeah, but you got to keep buying the topsoil. You got to keep buying the pill.
And I think with me, because I said my intentions were to teach people how to actually, do the thing and how to be sustainable with it. But then it's so easy to get caught up in, well, I need this many people to enroll and I need this many people to rank up and I need this many people to make this amount of money. And then your intentions switch to not where they should be. And so that's when I started saying I don't think this is for me anymore. I don't want people to feel sick, like they can't be healthy if they don't do what I'm trying to sell.
And I think that comes back to that idea of the role of knowledge or expertise and accountability. Those are not things that are, if they are built into some sort of product, it's in order to keep the customer happy so that they keep doing the thing. Mm-hmm. So how do you mix those two things with allowing it to be a long game? And I mean, for us, because this happens in the world that I'm in too, I have to separate the ideal of what I'm trying to do, the ethical part, from monetary accumulation. And I get that some people you have to make money and survive and in order to be a part of things. So I get why some of that happens, but I just hate that culture as a whole. How would you say that what you do then is different?
Well, for one, it's not a big corporate company trying to make money.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're being honest, this is kind of an income for me. So I do want people to, let me be their coach. I do charge. Yes, I do. I have a free group where anybody can join. But if you want the one-on-one coaching, I do charge for that.
Yep.
But I think the difference is instead of I do the one-on-one coaching so I can teach you how to be sustainable on your own. Like I teach you, you know, how to read food labels, or I teach you how to have a healthy relationship with food. So then, because I only commit, or I ask for a 3-month commitment. And so then after the 3 month, the goal really is for you to be able to do this semi on your own.
Or without having to pay.
Or without having to pay somebody. Like I don't want you to commit, you know, forever.
Right.
I really want to just have those 3 months where I'm really intentional with you, to where you can learn to do it on your own, and to where it becomes natural and just like a natural instinct for you to do these healthy things.
You're helping somebody get through those first difficult seasons of repairing their soil.
Right.
Because and then they should be okay to
the
keep
first couple weeks are the
them.
hardest. Like once you start the new habit, like the first couple of weeks are the hardest. But once it's ingrained in you, it's just second nature.
Yeah. This is something that I am pretty passionate about too. I'm going to share a couple things here. I have written about this. If you go to my website, which is just my pretentious website, which is my name.
You have a great website.
TylerKleeberger.com. Isn't that awesome?
It's a great website.
Nobody took that URL yet. That's great. No, but there's a couple articles on here where I try to give some theoretical side to this. And then I also have a podcast episode, episode 9 of my podcast, which is about this very thing and how that works within the process of change. So if you're interested in more on that, instead of me spouting off a bunch of information, I'll let you have at those things. But I mean, this is a good introduction to like what you actually do and why you do it, and hopefully that's something that you all found helpful. Or if you're watching this, and the free group is something. What explain that real quick?
It is. The free group is free. You don't have to do the one-on-one coaching to get into the group. You don't have to do it ever. Like you can stay in there forever and never have me as your coach. It's basically just a space where I share free resources. It's kind of an accountability group if you want it to be. I'm hoping it's a place where people can motivate each other, where I can motivate you, teach you basic things. And then if you want to go more in depth, that's where the one-on-one coaching could be good.
And for some people, that could be enough. You're getting tips,
and
you're
that's
getting
fine.
information, you're seeing other people engage with the same process, all good stuff.
I will say there are people in that group who are way more fit than I am, who have really great habits. I could probably learn from them. So there's really people of all levels. My goal is for you, my goal is not for you to get in there and then for me to try to get you to be one of my clients. My goal truly is just for you to be in there to learn something, to hopefully maybe teach somebody something else. Yeah.
Kelsey brought up a point of personalization and how that's something that with a product, with a company, that's probably not going to happen. And I
think my biggest thing with that was I never want people to question my intentions. And I started feeling like, even when I created this group, I went live in the group today and I just pretty much said how I felt. Like I didn't want them to think my intention was for me to sell them something. Right. Because that's not my intention.
And that's so rare. I thought of this partly because Paul is on here right now. Which Paul's apparently getting kicked off.
Oh, no.
That's just because Facebook's, probably read some of the things that you've written and they're after you. No, but there's so many comparisons to MLMs in the church world. I'm a pastor at a church, and these same things of personalization, context, accountability, expertise, all that happening without the goal of getting people to buy into something and pay more. And so we have to change things in order to appeal to people. And there are churches that do that, and I hate them, and they make me want to vomit. And then like what I'm trying to do at the farmhouse is very similar to what I sense you're trying to do with health and wellness coaching. So,
which is why we're together.
That's why it works.
We make such a great team.
All right, we're going to wrap this up. We'll stick around for some conversation. I'd love to hear more from what you all think, especially if you have any thoughts on the kids and food thing. That'd be great. But you can find more from Vanessa at vkhealthcoaching.live, or you can connect with her on Facebook or Instagram if you want to know more about that accountability group. And then I've got podcast episodes, writings, all that stuff on my website, on medium.com, all of that. So if you want to keep engaging with that, please do.
All right.
So does anybody have any
I just want to say,
anything they want to bring up?
This was our most chaotic so far.
Yes.
Between the children and the dog, I'm really sorry.
If you're wanting an update, kids are still up.
They're walking around up there.
Yeah, we can hear them.
It's Landon.
The dog is
laying down. Tyler still doesn't like
Kelsey, thanks for the recommendation on Kelsey is somebody who has gone through health and wellness coaching and has participated in a lot of the stuff that I do. So thank you, Kelsey. That means a lot.
He's talking about when you were talking about posting things.
Yeah, so if you've got anything you want to talk
Questions?
about, we can be here for a little bit longer. And if you don't, that
Tomorrow, we
oh,
should tell him tomorrow. Tomorrow is our 10-year wedding anniversary.
it's a great day.
It was not a great day, but we've made it. We've made it.
Yeah.
There was a time I wasn't sure that we were going to make it, but we did.
Yeah. We were going to go on a trip, and then that trip got canceled. We've spent all week trying to go so what else could we do?
Every single play we've made this week has kind of
Every plan's been
crumbled.
disrupted.
Today we walked through the zoo in a downpour.
Yeah.
Because we told our kids we'd take them to the zoo.
But yeah, the one thing I'm thinking about as we're approaching 10 years, I know nobody asked this question, but because none of you are asking questions, I'm making up my own questions. So Tyler, what have you experienced the most? 10 years difference in marriage, and it's how different we are.
Oh my gosh.
I said today, it was like my hair, why did it take me so long? Some of you might hate my hair, and that's fine.
I love your hair.
But I like my hair right now. And I see pictures of us like when we were dating and around when we got married, and I was like, why did you let me look like that? But so physically we're very different, but just mentally, the way we process things, our relationship's very different. Some of that in the last couple of years.
Yeah. So we wrote these letters to each other 10 years ago. We put them in this box and we closed the box. We haven't touched the box. It's been at the top of our closet.
For 10 years.
For 10 years, and these letters are in that box. And I actually feel anxious. Like there's a little pit in my stomach right now thinking about reading those letters tomorrow because I have no clue what I wrote. But I know that person, I don't even know that person exists anymore. Even like the language that I'm really scared to know, like the language that I put in that letter.
Yeah.
The F word will not be in that letter. That's changed.
That is something that has drastically changed with Vanessa.
I have 3 children. I have 3 children. And that's just the truth.
But there's also things that have stayed the same. It's just interesting to think about all of that. And for some people, like you've been married much longer, you've lived much longer, and you already know this reality. But we're kind of coming to grips with it, thinking about where we were 10 years ago, which isn't that long, but it seems like a whole different world that we used to live in. But so we'll read these letters, and then we'll write 2 new ones, and we won't read them until 20 years.
It'll be scary to read them again in 10 years.
I hope so.
Kelsey wants to know, what's the best advice you have? Best advice.
The way I'd answer that is similar to what we were just talking about. And I see this, and this kind of comes from like doing premarital counseling and things too. You cannot be in a relationship with somebody for who they are right now. You have to commit to also who they're going to change and be. And you have to think about marriage as an adventure. So you're committing to the adventure, not to the person in the moment. because one of the biggest things that happens is people naturally change. Things are different. We talked about this last episode, that our relationships change because people are changing. So your marriage relationship is going to change, and you have to change with it. Your commitment to the person has to outweigh your preferences for what you like about them right now. That's one of the things that I see coming up all the time in marriages that are struggling. And that's something that we've had to deal with too. But I look at us and see how we've changed. And Paul, kind of to your question, one of the biggest ways that we've experienced this is we have changed together. Like just thinking about the way that we thought about faith and spirituality and religion 10 years ago, way different. And
which is why I'm scared to read that letter.
how many couples do I know where one of them does and the other doesn't? And we went through that process very differently, but it never caused any division between us. And in fact, we were very keen on going, so where are you at with this right now? And I see a lot of people where that doesn't happen. And faith is like, for a lot of people, the core part of their identity. So when their partner has changes with that, they get divorced. So that's one way. The other way I would say is I've always been very dominant in our relationship. And just in 2016, that all got blown to pieces, just because of poor work-life relationships that I had. But then in the last year to 2 years, so here's an example. We would be in a public space, hanging out, talking with people, and I'm doing all of the talking, right? I'm emceeing the space. Now we do that, and I just sit there and I don't say anything because I don't have to, because you've owned your identity more. And this all goes back to our wedding, and I think it took you years to figure out who you were. Well,
then I become a mom very unexpectedly.
Right.
And then I have to find out who am I as a mom, and then you completely lose yourself, especially if you're a stay-at-home mom, because you don't have interaction with adult human beings. And so doing that for, I would say, up until almost till Quinn was born.
Yeah.
After he was born was not until I really figured out who am I? Obviously I'm a mom, that's my number one, top thing. But who am I outside of being a mom? And I think until I really figured that out, I really just felt like this shell of a person just walking around trying to survive. But now I feel like I have things I do for myself. I have the things that I know make me feel good about myself. And so I really feed into that and invest into that. And now I know I'm a human outside of just being a mom all day long.
Yeah, but even up until then, you were a child, you were a spouse, you were a mom, you were never you. Mm-hmm. And I can say that as you've owned that part of your reality, our relationship is way better. And that's been a cool thing, is 10 years in, and we've far surpassed where we thought we would be. And I think our marriage is healthier now than it was ever, even the honeymoon stage.
I don't feel like we had one of those.
Yeah. But those days of young romance, we are more mm-hmm. in love and in romance, but also in executing life and figuring things out. I just don't know how we made it.
I don't know how we did either. My advice is not as elaborate as yours, is don't keep score.
Good luck with that one.
Sometimes I still keep score. I probably kept score today, but don't keep score.
Yeah.
We have tattoos now too. If you'd have told me that when we got married, I'd be like, I'm not allowed to get a tattoo.
If Vanessa could meet, if her 21-year-old self could meet her now, 21-year-old Vanessa would be like, who the hell are you?
And I would embrace that 21-year-old girl, and I would say, you keep going, because someday it's going to be better than it is right now.
Yeah.
And it is.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for that.
Um,
Anything else? We kind of went way off of anything that we were going to. For the record, Freya is sleeping. She didn't knock any of the equipment over, which was what Tyler was concerned about. I'll ask you a question.
Nobody knows that there's equipment here. They think that we just happen to have.
They're not stupid. I mean, they're not. They obviously will know. There's a camera. Something's recording us.
Well, you were going to say something.
Oh, I was going to ask you how much you liked Freya.
I can't answer that publicly. I'll get canceled.
Okay. Amy's going to be mad that you said that.
Oh, Amy's listening. Sorry, Amy. I didn't say anything bad about dogs, technically.
Just his dog. I won't ask that question. We'll save that. I thought we were sitting in your...
I wish.
I know. I wish you were too.
I have that would be way better than this for me. Like people, I wish we were all just
Oh,
sitting
I thought
around
you were
together.
saying you'd rather be with those people. No offense to any of you than you would me.
No. I just like having those kind of conversations in person. But that's part of the reason we do this is I love sitting around talking. And this is a way that we get to do this and then share it with you. And I'll keep bringing up the point of this because I have friends who make fun of me that we have our own live stream. And
Hi, Matt Sager.
And my children think that we're on YouTube.
They do.
But we do this for us. This is our way of creating an external constraint that brings about conversation. Because we'll get done with this and we'll go talk about it. And the things that we started talking about here will come up the next time we're in the car. So this is, you're participating in something that's built for us, but we are hoping that it actually helps in some way, even if it just gets you to think about a topic that you weren't going to think about this week.
And we get to talk to people that we don't see, like Paul.
Yeah.
Hi, Paul.
Paul, we do want to come visit.
We do.
So hopefully you haven't been kicked off by Facebook again. But
these lights, we have lights too. If you thought that our house was just perfect lighting, we have these 2 lights and it's so, are you hot?
Well, the air conditioner's off because it's too loud.
Oh my gosh. Well, between like the dog barking and our children walking around and these lights, I'm sweating. Too much for me to handle. We should just cut this off.
We've been going for 45 minutes. So I think we're going to end. Feel free to keep commenting, or if you're watching this later and you want to add to the conversation, Vanessa and I will see it. Or if you guys have thoughts for things you'd like for us to talk about, that's honestly the best way for us to engage with this process. So that is all. We're going to end now. So thank you all. Hope to talk to you soon.